Welcome to Safety School, where we crunch down health, safety and environment learning into simple bite-sized snippets that you can use for your business or your career, helping you improve your knowledge, boost your performance and maybe even providing some inspiration. Let's get started. You're very welcome to another episode of Safety School with myself, Richard Collins, your host. And today we're going to take a very quick look at the need and requirement for a health and safety policy for businesses in the UK. And just to put it into some context as to why we would actually be concerned about this in the first place, going back to one of our earlier episodes on the Health and Safety at Work Act, which is obviously going back around 50 years at this point, it does state and is still in place to say that if you have more than 5 employees, you must have a written health and safety policy statement that should be specific to your business, and that should set out your general policy for protecting the health and safety of your employees and a little bit about your arrangements for putting that into practice. So that gives us a bit of a context as to why we should be concerned. Even if you don't have 5 employees, it would be good practice just to write that down, take a record of it. As I'm sure you would agree, a policy that isn't recorded anywhere isn't worth a whole lot. It's very difficult to prove to anyone that is the case. So just bear that in mind if you do have a small business. The health and safety policy, as I said there, it should just set out your general approach to health and safety, and fundamentally for smaller businesses, it really acts as a mini management system outline, as you would have with big systems like ISO 45001, which is now the newest version of the health and safety management standard. This is a smaller version of it really, and what the health and safety executive are wanting you to do is explain how you as an employer will manage health and safety in your business and set out clearly who does what, when and how they actually do it. For larger businesses, the health and safety policy doesn't need to include as much information and is more of a position statement to outline how you approach health and safety, and you can mention, of course, your management system and the different means by which you meet your goals and objectives and what they are as well. Within your particular business. If you are a smaller company, there's certain things that the health and safety executive would ask you to include in your health and safety policy, and it doesn't need to be complicated either. Of course, once you do have that done, you must be able to communicate it properly with your employees. Traditionally, a lot of businesses would just post them on the wall in a communal area or perhaps send them out by email and so on, but obviously there's many different ways you can do that. I certainly encourage you to have a discussion with your employees in teams, or if you're changing your policy or reviewing it, then it might be a good time on a yearly basis to get all of your employees together and go through it and have an open chat about it to get some feedback and so on. But that's entirely up to you, whichever way you want to approach that. So let's break down the 3 elements that the health and safety executive are asking for you to include in your health and safety policy. Number 1 is your statement of intent. So in simple terms, this is just really stating what your general policy on health and safety at work is, and that will include your overall intent and where I guess you want to be in terms of health and safety. And also what I would suggest including there is some specific aims and objectives that relate to your company. So you might want to pull out some targets for looking at near miss reporting or health and safety concerns, for example. You may want to target, 0 accidents, which a lot of businesses, would aim for as well. It's entirely up to you, but something that's specific and achievable is really the goal here, and something you can actually use to strive for and base the rest of your arrangements around. The second part of the policy expectation here from the HSE is outlining the responsibilities for health and safety and where they specifically lie within your organisation. You can list names, but I would suggest it may be better just to leave those out and go for positions or roles within the company. So actually looking at whichever members of staff are helping you execute and who's got responsibility for implementing certain activities. And that can be anyone from people on the shop floor to health and safety professionals, project managers, even your site directors can be involved in whichever responsibilities that are applicable depending on what you delegate. So just make sure that that's clearly outlined and it gives a good overview of where responsibilities lie. Part 3 then is to give details on the specific practical arrangements that you have in place. For example, that you're carrying out risk assessments on some of the work that you're doing, that you're giving training to employees that are exposed to high-risk activities. Maybe you only use a certain type of equipment that affords special protection to your staff that is carrying out particular activities, or you have some safety systems in place in the buildings that you're using to reduce the amount of risk that people are exposed to, and so on. It can be really anything that you feel is appropriate and specific to managing health and safety, and that's really up to you to decide what is important, and only include where the significant actions are, just as you would in a risk assessment with the significant risks. I would suggest just keeping it at a fairly high level, so that if anyone asks, they can dig further into it, but giving a good overview of what it is you're actually doing to proactively manage health and safety in your business. If you are working in the UK, I would recommend taking a look at the Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations, which gives more of a breakdown. They were brought in the 1990s and give you a breakdown of some of the steps that you actually have to take to manage health and safety, and that will help you when it comes to actually developing your policies that are relevant to your business. Also, keep an eye out on some of the upcoming episodes on Safety School here, which will be covering some of that. Also, if you're not listening to this episode directly from the safety.com website, I will leave a link to the blog post where you can go and look at a couple of examples of health and safety policy statements which we have put on for you there to download, to give you an idea of how that should be laid out. Okay, that's it for this one. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us here on Safety School. Hopefully we'll catch you again soon. That's it for this episode of Safety School. We hope this was helpful. If so, please remember to rate, review and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts or Spotify. And remember, for more health, safety and environment help, you can visit us at safety.com. Until next time, take care.